In the summer of 2026, IEETek rolled out new portable power stations at incredibly attractive prices. The P3200 model with 3.2 kilowatts of power and a 2 kilowatt hours capacity costs less than stations with 2.4 kilowatts of power from budget brands. They do this to promote the brand, to make it well known, and then raise the prices to the level of competitors. And they rolled them out, literally rolled them out. These stations have wheels and a telescopic handle, and dragging 25 kilograms is easier and more comfortable than carrying it, and that's a guaranteed plus for comfort when using this device. The manufacturers didn't skimp on the box either, and the padding inside was made to fit the dimensions of the station. The kit includes 3 cables of good quality for charging from the mains, solar panels, and a car. The solar panel and car cables have XT60i connectors. They have a 3rd pin, but this pin is not used on this station. The quality of the plastic casing is good. On top there's a textured surface with rubber pads on the sides. These pads, while a camper or car is moving, keep items that might be lying on top of the station in place. And you've already noticed that there is a port here for connecting external batteries. Unfortunately, the connector there has no contacts, and the ability to increase capacity is reserved for future models. A safe LFP battery is used. The nominal voltage is 51.2 volts, and the capacity is 2048 watt-hours. The station's rated power is 3200 watts, and the peak power is 6400 watts, but the station has a smart drive mode. If you turn it on, the station will reduce the voltage at the inverter output and thus be able to power devices with higher consumption. This only works with resistive loads, that is, mainly with heating devices. To test this mode, I will connect 3 devices at the same time. The first is an immersion heater. At 230V, it consumes 530 watts. The second kettle, it consumes a whopping 1930 watts at 230V, and the third is an oil radiator, consumes 1570W for a total of 4040W at 230V. We turn on all 3 devices at once, and the station started to reduce the voltage at the inverter output to 205V, thereby reducing the power consumption to 3200 watts. In other words, the station can handle a higher load than what the manufacturer claims. On the front panel, the station has a 3-watt LED flashlight with 3 operating modes, 2 buttons for controlling the AC outputs, DC, and the power button for the station itself. There are no buttons for turning on USB outputs. They activate automatically when the station is turned on. The buttons have backlighting, so they will be easier to find in the dark, and the light isn't bright, so it won't disturb your sleep. It won't bother you. There are 4 outlets. Each can output up to 3200 watts, but the total can't exceed 3200 watts. The voltage on the outlets can be changed manually from the app or using the buttons to 220, 230, or 240 volts. By default, it's 230 volts, 50 hertz. There is a traditional car cigarette lighter output for such devices, 13.2 volts, 10A. Above it are 2 DC 5.5 by 2.1 outputs with a maximum current of up to 8A. Competitors only offer up to 3A on these outputs. The total power of the 13.2V outputs is up to 120 watts, but there's also another car cigarette lighter output, and it has a voltage of 24 volts and a current of up to 10 amps, and truck drivers would definitely like that. The maximum power on it is up to 240 watts, and such a you won't find in most portable power stations. The station has 8 USB outputs, but don't get too excited just yet. 2 Type-C 100W outputs support power delivery 100 watts, but they are not independent. If you connect one high-power consumer, you will get up to 105 watts. But if you connect 2 consumers, the power will decrease significantly, so you will only be able to charge one device with high power at a time. The second pair Type-C port supports power delivery 30 watts, and they are independent of the other ports. And beyond that, you'll find 4 USB-A ports available for your devices. The total power output reaches up to 30 watts, which means they can be used to charge multiple gadgets simultaneously, providing a reliable power solution for your setup. Used for charging low-power devices. On the back of the station, there are 2 compartments. The plastic covers here are magnetic, so they won't open on their own. One compartment houses the connector for charging the station from an AC power source with a 15 amp circuit breaker. There is a switch for the station's charging power from 800 watts to 1800 watts, and there is an input for charging from solar panels. The voltage range for it is from 12 to 60 V. The maximum current is up to 20 A, and the maximum power is up to 1000 watts. Such a voltage range power make it possible to connect a stationary solar panel with a high power output of 600 to 700 watts. The second compartment here was intended for a car jump starter, but they decided not to include that device with the station. However, the case with the Type-C cable and adapters for micro USB, Lightning, and USB-A was kept, and you can put the charging cables for the station into this compartment. I will run a test to see how much the station is capable of delivering from its 2048 watt-hours battery. I will discharge it using a 1920 water heater. In the first test, the station delivered 1817 WH. I put the station on charge and repeated the test a day later, 1738 WH. And that's almost 100 WH less than in the previous test. But don't panic, the whole trick is in the station's charging algorithms. I redid the test again and got 1833 watt-hours. To explain what the tricks are, a smart plug and Home Assistant will help me. Charging the station finished on August 1st at 10:20 p.m. After charging, the station remained connected to the city power grid. The AC and DC outputs were turned off. In this mode, for own needs, similar devices consume about 3 watts. From the city grid, the station did not draw energy for its own needs. It drew it from the battery, and it recharged from the city grid only after 33 hours of such idle time. Finally, the Chinese engineers realized that there is no need to recharge the station's batteries every 2 hours, and that you can wait until they discharge to 97% and then recharge to 100% again. At a minimum, this has a positive effect on balancing the battery pack. Regarding charging time, at 800 watt power, the station charges in 2 hours, 50 minutes, and at 1800 watt power in 1 hour 10 minutes. If there is no extra need for fast charging, I recommend charging at 800 watts power. You can increase the station's capacity using third-party batteries by connecting them to the solar panel input. When using a battery at 25.6 volts, you will get a charging power of up to 500 watts. But if charging from a car cigarette lighter or a battery with a voltage of around 12.8 volts, then the station limits the charging current to 8 amps and won't take more than 100 watts. Unfortunately, this is a typical charging power limitation at such voltages, and this is done to protect the car's cigarette lighter from damage. At a voltage up to 26 V, the station draws up to 250 watts of power, and only at voltages above 26 V does the station start drawing current up to 20 amps. The good thing is that the upper voltage limit of the solar input is 60 volts. You can use large panels for this kind of recharging. Batteries with a nominal voltage of 51.2 volts. Noise is an important parameter for those who use the station in a confined space. Just turned on, the station emits 40 dB of noise. That's almost silence. Under a 120 watt load, the noise didn't change. A 600 watt load is still around 40 dB. 900 watt didn't change anything. The fans are spinning, and only under a load of 1500 watts did the station start to get louder, up to 50 dB, and that's relatively low noise. During the day, you won't notice it. Under a 2800 watt load, the station puts out 60 dB. This is clearly audible, even during the day, especially when you're right next to the station. If you charge the station at 800 watts, it also runs quietly. The noise level is 40 decibels. In conclusion, the station is quiet and it can be purchased for use in apartments as well. As for the UPS mode, in stations with internal power supplies, it should be there by default. It is present here too. It works as claimed by the manufacturer within 10 milliseconds, and at the output, the station's inverter produces a perfect sine wave. On the left is the sine wave from the grid, and on the right is the sine wave from the station. Connect to the app. You need to hold down the DC buttons for a few seconds and the flashlight. And as for the app, that's where the real torture begins. The Wonder-Free app is well known to Oukatel station owners. It's slow and has minimal features. You can control the outputs, change the frequency or voltage on the AC outputs, turn on smart drive and slow charging mode, select the time for turning off the station and standby mode. Here you will also find the identifier device key, which can be sent to the manufacturer with a request to update the software to the station. But the station works well as it is, so I don't see the point in updating the station. In other words, the app only has the bare minimum of features. Up until now, there is no integration with the Home Assistant smart home system. All that's left is to take the station apart and draw some conclusions. The back panel is on clips and comes off easily. A quick tip, you don't need to remove the handle at all. It doesn't get in the way of disassembly. And an electric screwdriver helped me with taking the station apart. On the connector for the engine jump starter compartment says 5 volts, data, and ground, but there is no 5 volts there. I guess it only appears if the jump starter device is in the compartment. The front panel's on clips and also comes off without any extra effort. The board of the front panel with USB controllers, a Wi-Fi adapter, and a microcontroller. And it looks like the same board is used in the 2400 watt and 1800 watt models. The Wi-Fi and Bluetooth adapter here is from Quectel, and Quectel is actually the developer of the Wonderfree app. The 30-watt USB controller is one for the 4 USB-A ports, and on the 30-watt Type-C ports, there are separate controllers for each port. The SW3556 is a 100-watt Type-C controller, and there is one for both 100-watt ports here. And on this board, there is a Chinese microcontroller from GigaDevice. As soon as you remove the front panel, you immediately have access to the battery pack and the BMS. Here, cylindrical lithium iron phosphate cells are used. A feature of these cylindrical cells specifically is that they can deliver a fairly high current. For example, this cell, with a capacity of 20 Ah, can deliver a current of up to 60 Ah. The battery configuration is 16S2P, meaning 16 series sections with 2 cells connected in parallel, and such a design easily withstands the load at 3.2 kilowatts. The positive terminal goes directly from the battery to the inverter, and the negative terminal goes to the inverter through the BMS board. The dimensions of the BMS board are small, and the manufacturer is unknown. It is rated for a current of up to 100 amps, and on this station, at a 3.2 kilowatts load, it will be a current of around 60 amps from the battery. So there is a safety margin. The board has a free charge system. I remind you that when you press the power button on front panel, the BMS turns on first and supplies voltage to the inverter. The balancer is passive, using 68 ohm resistors. The balancing current is 50 milliamps. This is the first time I've seen such a battery controller. It's the one responsible for balancing. And I connected to this BMS via RS485 specifically to see how it handles the balancing. I charged the station from the grid at 800W. At 5:30 p.m., charging was complete. The difference between the cells was 136 millivolts, and after 2 hours, the difference was less than 10 millivolts. So despite the fact that it has a passive balancer, in 2.5 hours it balanced the station's battery. Looking at balancing speed, I can say that high quality, good cells are used here. There are suppressor diodes. This is protection against sudden voltage spikes, and as transistors in the charging and discharging switches. MOSFETs and sold packages from JJ Microelectronics are used. The documentation specifies an operating voltage of up to 100 volts and a crazy current of up to 465 amps. Communication between the station's components is organized via RS485, and there is also a spot on the BMS board for a Bluetooth adapter. So it seems that this board is used not only in this charging station. The station is assembled in such a way that the inverter and battery can be disconnected, and the battery can be pulled out of the case separately. And in order to pull out the inverter, you need to remove the top cover, which is held by 8 screws hidden under rubber, pads, and a few clips. And actually, removing this cover was the most difficult part at disassembling the station. In other words, the station is easy to disassemble without any unnecessary effort. The inverter board is located in a metal box. After unscrewing it from the housing, it can be easily pulled out. And this is the housing without the inverter and battery. They save money on one fan, but the cooling works perfectly fine without it. Maybe it will appear in future more powerful models. There are 2 fans for air intake. And this is the inverter board, the step-up converter, voltage MPPT controller, and the high voltage section. The fans used are 12-volt quiet 3-pin ones, and on the inverter board, a microcontroller was found from the American company Texas Instruments. And these are the inputs and output for AC power. There are only a few varistors here. I've mentioned repeatedly that poor charging stations don't like poor AC power grids, so make sure to install a voltage relay at the house entrance. It looks like drivers for sine wave generation. I could be wrong about the purpose of this small board. The power transformer, voltage booster made with Litz wire. The transistors of the high voltage section are from JJ Microelectronics, and these are trench field stop IGBTs with an operating voltage of up to 650 volts and a current of up to 40 amps, and there are 9 of them on the heatsink. The voltage booster uses accessible and cheap transistors from CR Micro, 100, versus MOSFETs with a current of up to 120A. Which transistors are used in the MPPT controller that I wasn't able to see. That you need to remove the inverter completely from the metal box. Usually, the same transistors are used there as in the voltage booster. The markings on the board indicates that the board itself was printed in 2026. As for the expansions connector, it has dimensions of 31 by 32 millimeters, and unfortunately I couldn't find it on Aliexpress. But you can print the plastic on a 3D printer, insert an XT90, and increase the capacity using a third-party battery pack. On that note, I'll wrap up the video and draw some conclusions. For the money that station costs at the time of recording this video, it's just super perfect. It's quiet and handles a serious load. Even a vacuum cleaner motor, which has a power of 2.2 kilowatts, started up from this station without any issues. And with Smart Drive, it handles up to 4 kilowatts of heating appliances. The solar input panels with a power of up to 1,000 watts makes it possible to connect one solar panel with high power, and the presence of wheels and a handle will definitely be appreciated by fragile girls and elderly people. The 24-volt output will be liked by truck owners, but in a 2026 model station, one would already like to see power delivery 3.1 with 140 watts power. I hope that in this video you saw all the information about this portable charging station, but if I forgot about something, then the comments are there for questions.